Welcome to lesson 52 of Wednesdays with EWAT, here with Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, your business English coach. How's everyone doing on this Wednesday, 24th of January 2018? So we are live for the next 60 minutes, or maybe just under 60 minutes, where we are going to be talking business English and anything to do with how to communicate better, more effectively, more confidently in English when you are doing business. So let me know where you're from and tell me how you are. And welcome to lesson 52. Harvest, hello, I think you're new to this class. Lovely to meet you. Where are you from? I am now just going to go onto the Facebook page here on my desktop so I can get to see all the comments. So I'm Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, as I said, your business English coach here at English with a Twist. Hi Keiko, hi Vasiliki, lovely to see you. I'm just checking the lighting here. I don't want to have too much. You're from Algeria, Harvest. All right, welcome. Welcome. Is this your first time to English with a Twist? Let me just check. Excuse me, everybody, just as I sort out some lighting here. I hope you can all see me clearly. Yes. Hi, Vasiliki. Right. So, how is everyone doing? It's as I say, lesson 52 and it's the third lesson, I think, for this year. And today we are going to continue our theme on small talk. So if any of you have been following my emails and you are subscribers to EWAT, you probably have received a few of my emails introducing you to my relaunched ebook, Small Talk to Go, which also has an audiobook with it. So let me know whether you've had a chance to look at it or whether you've grabbed your copy, because I'd love you to tell me what you think about it. So, you're still in time, if you're a member of EWAT, to buy your copy with a wonderful discount. So don't forget to go onto your emails if you haven't checked your inbox recently and have a look and get your copy of the book. That'd be wonderful. Hi, I'm seeing Gabi from Argentina. Let me just double check. There's someone else who's come on. Vivek from India. And let me just refresh my page and I can see all then everybody's comments. Hi, Cardenia. I think that's Cardenia from Familia Zanna. So, hi. Hope you're well. And there was someone else who said hello and I just missed that. I'm so sorry, but hello. Hello from London. It's incredibly rainy. Gerald, that's it. Can you discuss how to improve interpersonal skills, please? Gerald, can I make that as a note for next time? I will put that in terms of how we can improve our interpersonal skills. I will make that a note for the next topic for English with a Twist. Needy hello. For today, though, we're going to be looking at continuing the theme on small talk. And I think this will also help you, Gerald, on the small talk with your interpersonal skills in terms of how do you engage when you're talking to people in everyday conversations, not just to do with business. Salma, hello. Zakaria, hello. Who else has said hello? Needy. Lovely to see you, everybody. I'm so glad everyone's coming into this class. It's wonderful to see everyone. I don't recognize everyone's name, so I'm wondering whether some of you are new to English with a Twist. If it is, welcome to English with a Twist, and more importantly, welcome to Wednesdays with EWAT. So, as I mentioned, today we're talking about small talk, and so continuing that theme, today I want to look at how we can spice up those small talk conversations that we have. And so I don't know about you, but do you ever have a moment when you feel really bored with the topics you want to engage in small talk? You just get bored. You don't like to talk about the weather. And sometimes you're thinking, well, what am I going to be talking about? I'm just bored with it. So how can you make things more interesting, more engaging, so that you can end up moving from the apparent non-importance of small talk into a more meaningful conversation with the person you're speaking to. Now, this is a post. If you're followers on my blog, you will have received that post last week when I wanted to I shared with you some questions that you could ask to have a more meaningful conversation in English at small talk, whether you're talking business or whether you're just talking about anything around the topic of small talk. So I thought, what a better idea, just in case you're not a member of my subscribers to EWAT, and you want to find out what are these questions you could ask. And I was researching this and I thought, how could we ask more thought-provoking questions? Thank you very much, everybody. Before we start, I was just noticing people sort of giving me thumbs up, liking my this conversation. Thank you so much. And if you think that some of your friends and colleagues would benefit, why don't you share this class with them at the moment on Facebook, and maybe then they'll be able to tune in if they are free and they can watch this class. That'd be wonderful. So, spicing up. What do we mean by spicing up our conversations in English? To spice something up is to make it more interesting, to make it more engaging, and so that you can continue this conversation. And when I was researching this, I came across an article, and I thought, yeah, really interesting. This article shared 48 different types of questions you could ask next time you're engaging in small talk. And I thought, wow, I like these questions. And a lot of these questions were thought-provoking questions. In other words, they make you think. They make you think about the question, about lots of different types of topics. So I thought, imagine if you could ask a thought-provoking question and to see what sort of reaction you would get from the person you're speaking to. What do you think? I mean, what is the most thought-provoking question you have ever asked, or you have been asked before? Why don't you share with me here if you've ever asked thought-provoking questions? What sort of examples could you think of? Do share with me. In the meantime, I'm going to say hello to Mohammed, Grace, Yvonne, Zachariah. I think I said hello, didn't I? Yes, I don't want to have a moment where I'm forgetting things. All right, let's look at this. And in this post that I shared with my EWATers last week, I broke down the different topics under sort of broad headlines: work, food, entertainment, life stories, and travel. Because, you know, you can break those down, and I'm sure there are other sorts of topics you could break it down into where you'd like to talk about. Vasiliki, you said, I'd suggest that the conversation took place in a splendid Indian restaurant while eating a mouth-watering curry. Oh, okay. So you're saying this is where you had as thought-provoking questions, and this is where you had your very engaging, interesting, spicy conversation? Or is this you're thinking spicy, so you're thinking Indian restaurant, spices, and having a hot, spicy curry? That could be nice pictures here. I'm getting some nice images. Okay, let's have a look. What sort of questions? You might have some wonderful questions you'd like to share with me, so please share with me in the chat box. I'd love to see it. But let's start with asking some questions you might want to test yourself. Now, you can judge what is a good question to ask and what isn't, because some questions might not be appropriate to the culture you're in. You know, some cultures do not welcome very direct questions or thought-provoking questions. They like to keep things very superficial. But you are going to be the judge of those situations. But let's have a look at work. Let's look at other sort of questions apart from the what do you do, you know, boring question. How else could we ask? I have 5 questions under here, and I wonder whether you find these equally interesting. So we have here under work. If you weren't working here, what would you probably be doing now? So if you weren't working here, what would you probably be doing now? Do you like that question? I think it's great. So you're talking to someone you've just met, or you're just chatting away, or maybe you know them, and you've moved on from the initial introductory conversation, and then now you want to take it one step further. So if you weren't working here, what would you probably be doing now? So great way of imagining, well, if I wasn't here, this is what your idea is. You think, well, I would be doing this instead, and then the conversation can take you into different paths. Who knows where it could take you? Wonderful. Another question could be, how did you become a business English coach? Or how did you become a dentist? Or how did you become a mentor for young people? Or how did you become a football coach? So what's that question? It's your journey. Where did it start? So instead of just saying, what do you do, is how did you become it? What's the story behind that? What made you take this path? Fascinating. So that how you become is also a great open-ended question. So that would require the other person to think about it. Next question could be, would you rather work 4 10-hour days or 5 8-hour days? So I'll repeat that. Would you rather work 4 10-hour days or 5 8-hour days? I love that question, don't you? If any of you have ever read Tim Ferriss's The 4-hour working, no, the 4-hour working day, I think. All of us try and say, well, what would you rather do? Work 10 hours over 4 days, or spread it out over 5? And it's fascinating because we think, how are we more productive? So that can start a conversation on productivity. Do we need to be working more days, or can we reduce the days we work but increase the hours? So what's more productive in the workplace? It's a great question. I'd love that because it makes you start thinking. What would you do? Have you ever wondered that, about that? The next question could be, what was your first job and did you like it? So what was your first job? Did you like it? Yes, well, my first job was, when I was at school, and I had a Saturday job, and it was working in a shop. And I had a Saturday job working maybe in the mornings or all day, or a weekend job. Did I like it? Yeah, I loved it. Oh, no, I didn't. Why? So that starts a conversation there. Next one I like particularly is, what's the best career advice you've ever received? And what is the worst career advice you've ever received? Yeah? What do you think of these questions for work? Instead of just talking about what do you do and all this sort of thing, you could get a more interesting conversation going, because it sparks different ideas, and then you can exchange what you think, and then the other person tells you what they think. And if you're talking across different cultures, you could learn the different perspectives of how people think, particularly things like the 10-hour working week, over 4 days, or 5 days, 8 hours a day. So that gives you lots of ideas to chat. Now, looking at the area of entertainment, but please share with me in the chat box what other questions you could think of to do with work. Are there any questions you've ever been asked that you thought, I really liked that question? It was a hard one, but it was such an interesting question. I never thought about it. Nobody's ever asked me. So I'd love you to give this some thought, because, you know, how could you add that into your repertoire of small talk questions? Yeah, so with work, what is the most interesting question you've ever been asked? And what's the maybe most boring? Or what has been something that's really made you think? Entertainment. So looking under entertainment, so we moved from work. Here are 6 questions you could ask, or maybe you've already asked yourself. Let's have a look. Now, we always talk about entertainment, and entertainment, I would suggest, could be leisure, it could be hobbies, it could be your interests. So there's so many things, right? So what comes under this banner? You know, if you think about it, it could be theater, books, films, television programs, you know, lots of things. Vasiliki is saying, because I'm a literature writer, I was approached like, what inspired you to write this? Lovely question. So if you're someone who people know write books or write about literature or maybe comment about literature, then people would ask, what inspired you to write about something? Yeah, so what was that inspiration? Or maybe you've had a change in career and someone could say, well, what inspired you to change your career? And I've been asked this question many times because, of course, I changed my career from moving from the investment world to becoming a business English trainer. And many people said, well, what inspired you to change career? And so that can, you know, trigger a very, well, hopefully an interesting conversation, because then the other person can maybe get involved and make a comment, or maybe they have examples of other people. So I love that. What inspired you to write, or what inspired you to make a change, or whatever. So nice question. Thank you, Vasiliki. So looking at entertainment, looking at leisure, looking at your hobbies, perhaps you could say to someone, are you reading good books now? Or are you reading a good book at the moment? Do you have any recommendations? Or maybe you are learning a particular language and you're talking to that person whose language you're learning. So you enjoy books and you could say, are you reading a good book at the moment? Or is there a book in English or in French or in German that you would recommend? And that person could start a conversation. Or they might say, well, actually, I'm not much of a reader. I prefer reading articles, or, you know, so some people think about books, but then there are other ways you can read. You can read blogs, you can read articles, you can read magazines, and so that can trigger a conversation that way. Or if you're a techie person, you could say, are there any apps on your phone that you can't live without? Oh, Keiko, nice. I've just said, so Keiko, you're saying, which kind of business, I just lost Keiko's comment here, so let me just look here. Which kind of business do you want to run, would you run if you had a chance? What kind of business? So what kind of business would you like to run, or would you want to run if you had a chance? Yeah, so what's your dream? In other words, what's your dream? What's your ambition? If you had a chance now, what would you like to run? What sort of business would you want? Bengjin, you said here, I'm a researcher in medicinal plants. And people always ask, what inspired you to study medicinal plants? Perhaps the place I came from, where we are so close to nature, it inspired an interest, so that inspired and it grew it helped grow your interest as a child. So since childhood, you've always been interested in medicinal plants. That's such a fascinating area. So you're a researcher in medicinal plants. I can just imagine why people would think, what inspired you to follow a career in medicinal plants? And you think, yeah, ever since I was a child, we were surrounded by plants and we were very close to nature, and my parents took me here so that builds that whole story that you can develop. Wonderful, really interesting actually. Vasiliki, you're saying also a nice one from the book you're reading at the moment. Please turn to page 14 and read the 4th line. All right, okay, so maybe you're sharing 2 books. Maybe you've got the same book, you've got it together, and you go, if you turn to page 14, or you read the 4th line, or maybe you don't, but you tell them. If you happen to find someone who's reading the same book, you could say, yeah, well, what did you think of, if I found this particular part of the book on page 14 on the 4th line, although that's very, very detailed, Vasiliki. Wow. I don't know whether I would be that detailed, but yeah, great. We can tell you're a literature writer because your attention to detail is very precise. I'm lucky if I still remember the page I left my book on last night. So, that's really good. But absolutely, another thing with books would be, yes, what is, are you reading a particular book? What are you reading at the moment? Would you recommend it to me? Or it could be, what type of books do you like? And then that triggers a conversation there. And you can then share your experiences. So talking about apps. So we all love our apps. We have lots of apps. So maybe you're talking tech and then somebody says, so what apps do you have on your telephone that you cannot live without? And that's an interesting one, really, because I think it depends, I suppose, on generations. I would not necessarily ask that question, but when I saw that question in this article I read, I thought, yeah, that would be interesting, because you tell me, why don't you share with me now? What apps do you have on your smartphone that you cannot live without? I'm sure most of you are going to tell me social media. Maybe you've got your Facebook page or your Facebook account, your Facebook or Instagram, or I, for example, love the BBC iPlayer app. So I'm always watching programs on the BBC. I have the Netflix app. So it's interesting. Or maybe you're learning a language and you think, I find this app is fascinating. I can't live without it. Why? What's so wonderful about it? And then both of you take out your phone and you start looking up. So when you start talking, you start engaging with that app. Zachariah is saying, what is the golden key of avoiding the infinite loop of routine work? Oh, wow, is that a question? Is that a question you'd ask? Fascinating. Vasiliki, if you were a color, what color would you be and why? I love that. Very nice. If you were a color, what color would you be and why? Very nice. Yeah, so that's a more sort of metaphorical. So that opens up another area of conversation. Lovely. Okay, now another question we could have, for example, to do with films. If you could only watch one genre, in other words, one type of film for the rest of your life, what would it be? So if you could only watch one genre or one type of film for the rest of your life, what would it be? I don't know. Good question. What would it be? Sometimes I think about it and I'm thinking, gosh, I've never thought about that. If I only had one genre, so what genres? So immediately that makes you think, what sort of films do you like? Horror, thriller, crime, drama, comedy. I think who knows, what sort of question would, fascinating question. How would you answer that question? Another one is, what's a book you hated that everyone else loved? So what's a book you hated that everyone else loved? Those are always a classic, right? There's some prize, book that's won an award or a prize, and everyone's talking about it. There's a huge buzz around this particular book, and everyone rushes to their store, their ebook, and gets a copy of the ebook or the book, the store, and everyone's talking about it. And you think, oh, I must read this. It's obviously fantastic. And everyone's been talking about how wonderful this book is. And then you start reading it and you think, I absolutely hated it. So what book that you hated that everyone else loved, and why? What was it? What was so terrible? And maybe the other way around. Maybe what was a book that you absolutely loved, but everyone said it was terrible? You could do that with a film, couldn't you? Everyone goes on about, oh, the film is fantastic, you must go see it. And then you go see it. Now, I don't know what the hype was about. So the hype means this big chat, this big talk. What was so great about it? So we talk about the hype around, I'm just writing this down in the chat box, the hype around a book or a film, or even a television program. Yeah, so everyone goes, oh, what was that hype about around that? I don't know. And you think, so that wasn't exciting. I didn't like it. So then that triggers a conversation. And then maybe the other person goes, yeah, I had a similar situation with this case. Okay, now, if you're someone who likes listening to podcasts, perhaps you could ask, do you have any podcast suggestions for my commute? Now, what do I mean by commute? Does anyone know? A commute. For my commute. So do you have any podcast suggestions you would recommend for my commute? So what's commute, my fellow EWATers? In English? I've had a number of clients ask me that. To commute is the journey we take going to work and coming back from work. So it's your daily commute. We talk about daily commute. And sometimes, maybe you're someone who is on the train or you're driving and you like to listen to something. And often I get clients asking me, what could I listen to on my journey to work? And there are often very good podcasts. You can download them onto your smartphone and listen. So what podcasts would you recommend on my commute? And maybe you start chatting about it. Maybe you've had a discussion about it and you just want to know. So I quite like that question. Now, the last question under entertainment could be, what's the last movie that made you cry? Or, what's the last movie or film that made you laugh? So, good question. Maybe you're not a film goer, but it could be a film that you watched at the cinema, or it could be the last film that you watched on television, on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, or streaming. So whichever. So what was the last film that made you cry? What was the last film that made you laugh? Why? So that can open up an interesting conversation, perhaps. Who knows, right? So that comes under entertainment. And please share with me, like you've done earlier, what other questions you have been asked or what questions you would like to ask someone about hobbies, interests, any leisure activities you do. Let me, share them with us here. Now, we're going to go down to the topic of food. Now, most people like food. And especially if you're engaging with people from different cultures. I don't know about you, but I love to find out about food. I also come from a country where we have a wonderful, I come from two sides of me that are very rich in food, cuisine. my Indian origin and my Italian origin. So food is a big part of their culture. So, and in Malaysia where I grew up, we have, food is a major part. And so we love to talk about food, whether it's Chinese food, Indian food, or Malay food. And of course, in Italy, we talk about Italian cuisine. Funnily enough, the British don't, but we do talk a lot about food, not necessarily British cuisine, but we like it. So if you're someone who loves food, likes to engage in talking about that, it's great. Or maybe you're at a dinner party, or maybe you're at a business lunch, and then, you could talk about food at the beginning just to get, the conversation going. But we're getting more. We've had the initial conversation, so let's ask something else about food. If you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? Okay, similar question to this film, right? The genre of film. So if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? Now, some people will say, oh, Shanti, that's such a silly question. I don't know. There's still so many, but it's really difficult to choose. But yeah, maybe it's talking about your favorite. I cannot live without. What can you not live without? Some people would say chocolate. Some people say I cannot live without bread. I love pasta. I just cannot live without pasta. Or rice. Who knows? Yeah. So if you only had one thing you could eat for the rest of your life, what would it be? Vasiliki is saying chocolate. Yeah, so what would it be? The next question. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? So what's the weirdest? What do I mean by weirdest? So I'm going to spell it. Weirdest is also the strangest thing you've ever eaten. So strangest. So I see here, Alessandra said pasta. Yes. Zachariah, apples? You can't live without apples? Oh, that's so healthy of you. Wow, we've come up with chocolate and pasta. You're coming up with an apple. You're not being a goody two-shoes, are you? Just for the benefit of this class, right? Let's see. Apples, great. So if you only had one thing to eat for the rest of your life, it would be apples, right? So imagine you're on a desert island and you only have that to eat. That's what you'd want to eat. Okay, good. You'd never get sick of it. You can never get sick of chocolate, never get sick of pasta, never get sick of apples. Fantastic. So the next question, as I mentioned, was, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Now, this could be down to maybe you went on a holiday or on your travels, you were exploring, you were somewhere, and the weirdest thing you ate was whatever. Some people often say to me, there are some Chinese dishes where, the Chinese are very, very creative, very inventive in how they prepare their meals. And then so sometimes it's the weirdest thing they've eaten or, whatever. Okay, Cardenia's just shared with us frogs. Yeah, so maybe frog legs or something. So it's the weirdest thing you ever eaten. Okay, so the next question is why? What was weird about it? What did you not like? The texture, the taste, the idea of eating frog legs? Some people have, for example, there's a dish in, I think, Hong Kong and also in parts of China where they have sheep's testicles. Okay, just the idea of sheep's testicles makes me think, I'm sure it's delicious, but, some people just the idea, So, it'll be there. But maybe it's the weirdest thing. So the question is why? What was the weirdest thing? And then you can exchange, right? And then you talk about the different places you visited. And so the conversation can continue. The next question, I like this. And it's particularly, I think, for women, or women tend to talk about it more than men, which is, what's your go-to comfort food? So your comfort food, what is our comfort food? When we're feeling a bit sad, when we're feeling stressed out, when we're feeling that we need to feel better about ourselves, then you want a comfort food. Yeah, so it's your comfort. Or maybe you're not feeling very well. Cardenia is saying just the idea of eating frogs makes, yeah, I totally relate to that. It's just the idea, you know, they're slimy and, okay, Keiko, I assume you're not saying that ice cream is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten, but I assume that you're saying ice cream is the one thing you would eat for the rest of your life, right? If you only had one thing. Or maybe it is the weirdest thing, who knows? But, so the comfort food, talking about comfort food. So maybe you're not well. You're feeling a bit sick. You're not feeling happy. So what is it that's going to make you feel better in your spirit? So comfort food. So what is your go-to? We have an expression in English when we say the go-to means that you go to and want to eat it. Ah, Keiko, you're saying ice cream is your go-to comfort food. Okay. Oh, Gabi, I'm so sorry the video keeps freezing. Obviously, the internet connection's going in and out. I'm sorry. I hope you can catch us on the recording. So Keiko's comfort food is ice cream. Yeah, you often see this also in American films, don't they? They're feeling low and they go get their comfort food, which is always tubs of ice cream that they eat. Yeah, so what is your go-to comfort food? I'm trying to think what mine is, actually. I mean, some people say it's biscuits. A lot of women say, you know, they'll say, well, yeah, they'll eat chocolate or they will eat biscuits or it could be pasta. Who knows? I don't know. But people who feel low often eat. So because it then makes them feel better. So, okay. So Keiko shared with us ice cream. Anybody else have a go-to comfort food that they have? Okay. Now, the next question, and I think I know what Cardenia's answer is going to be on this one, is, are there any foods that you absolutely would not eat? So, are there any foods that you would absolutely not eat? Luciana, you've said milanesas is my go-to food. What is milanesas? Can you share with us, Luciana? Because I've never heard of that. Vasiliki, okay, Vasiliki hasn't come up with a food. She's come up with her drink is whiskey. So your go-to comfort drink. Okay, Vasiliki, we need to talk. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah, my comfort, yes. Okay, so your go-to comfort drink is whiskey. But Luciana, and I'm very intrigued, has shared with us milanesas. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I'd love to know what that is. Please share. Where does it come from? Where does it originate from? I'd love to know. So, are there any foods you would absolutely not eat? Rosie, my mother, says cookies. American English for biscuits. Yes. Cardenia says her comfort food is vegetables. Okay, Cardenia, excuse me, could I just say that you are too good, all right? Comfort food is not supposed to be good for you. Your comfort food is supposed to be bad for you. And I just thought I'd tell you. But if it is vegetables, and maybe it is, then I wish. Milanese is cotoletta. You think it is cotoletta? Oh, Luciana, you're talking, oh, it's an Argentine. Okay, so it's similar to Italian, like cotoletta, the cutlets. So meat covered with a mixture of eggs, so breadcrumbs. When we talk about eggs and bread, we're talking about breadcrumbs, right? So it's a, yes, so my mom was right, she's saying cutlets. So yeah, so it's a cutlet. And Luciana, you're saying definitely something that you would never eat is snails. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I cannot, escargot. as the French would say. Yeah, snails, I could never possibly eat. I think the other thing that I could not possibly eat are insects. There are some parts of the world where you can have insects. There's absolutely no way I could eat that. I think even if I was like super, super hungry, starving, no way. All right. The next question is, what are the best cheap eats around here? So maybe you're talking to people and you're maybe at a conference or you're at a cocktail party or you're in a training course, and then they say to you, what are you're planning to go out for somewhere to eat, and so someone will say, so what are the cheap eats around here? I'm just stopping for a minute. Zachariah says, my comfort food is tagine. I completely agree with you, Zachariah. I love tagine. So you're from Algeria, but there's also, so the Algerian tagine and also the Moroccan tagine. I don't know whether it's similar, but I love that. Yes, I completely get that. That delicious flavors with the couscous. Lovely. Rose is saying you must be very posh to eat escargot. Yeah, but also a bit weird, I think. Yeah, posh in the sense that you must have a lot of money and then go and get your escargot. Yes, okay. They people can stay posh and eat their escargot. But tagine, yes, my favorite. I love it. The cheap eats. Now, I'm going to write that in the chat box. What is a cheap eat? Cheap eats. So cheap eats is slang informal to say cheap restaurants or cheap places to eat. And normally it's something quick to eat. Not a restaurant where you're going to have a 3-course meal or a 4-course meal. So where are the cheap eats? Eats we often use where we're talking about a quick snack or fast food. So cheap eats, that's where. So any good cheap eats around here that you would recommend? Oh yes, there's a good pasta place or whatever, and you can have a quick bowl of pasta or quick bowl of noodles, which is really good. I mean, of course, in Southeast Asia, if you come from Southeast Asia or have traveled to Southeast Asia, we have lots of cheap eats, which are delicious. Market stalls where you can have a quick bowl of noodles, whether they are fried or whether they are bowl of noodle soup. So those are cheap eats because they don't cost a lot of money and they're very filling. So it's a great way to eat and very fast. And of course, in Southeast Asia, you have plenty of those market stalls. You have them sometimes also in London. For example, in Italy, I know that we have a lot of the pizzas. You can buy slices of pizzas and you can go, or you have, the quick meals that you can have. Now, another question, finally on the subject of food, I mean, amazing how we've already talked about food, is what's your favorite restaurant that other people don't know about? Now, that's a great one, isn't it? So what is your favorite restaurant that other people don't know about? So, often when you are traveling, if you're on a business trip, you are and you are staying overnight in a different city, you have business meetings with either colleagues or clients, you might ask them where they would suggest. So they would suggest maybe a restaurant that you don't know about or other people don't know about, because maybe you've looked at your guide and they tell you certain things. But they'll say, well, actually, there's a really nice restaurant. It's just around the corner. It's really small. People haven't heard of it because they don't take reservations. But you just go there, beautiful home-cooked meals, blah, blah, blah. So you think, oh, great, I'll go see that. So what has Luciana said? Luciana said, pizzeria are very cheap in Argentina. And of course, asado, grill meat. Yes, pizzeria also in Italy are very cheap. Grilled meat. Yes, lovely. Yeah, very good, interesting. Yes, similar. And Rose is saying, you mean to say the French are a bit strange in their eating habits? No, it's only when they come to escargot. And frogs. Yes, let's not forget what Cardenia said also about frogs. Yes, but then we could say the same about Chinese, right? Some of them, they've got some strange choice of meals that they eat, like sheep's testicles and things like that. But that's only because we're not used to it, right? I mean, in their culture, in their custom, they could be used to it. It's what we are used to at the end of the day. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to, okay, there's someone else's telephone call going through, my husband's number. We'll ignore it. Talking about travel. Chicken feet. Jeannie, you're right. The Chinese also have chicken feet. Yeah. That really makes me feel bored. Yeah, but then what do you eat? The chicken's feet. There's not much meat in there. What do you eat? But I think it's delicious in broth when you make it into a chicken soup. Then the flavors come out. Okay, let's move on from food because I'm getting too hungry now. Travel. Nice topic. Travel. We all love to travel, or maybe we like to discuss that or find out more about it. So let's see. You are on a business trip or you are on a holiday. So you might ask someone, what's the best hidden gem around here? So what's the hidden gem? What's a gem? A gem is a jewel. You know, it's a gem. We talk about gemstones. If you think about rubies, emerald, diamonds, they're gems. And if we talk about a hidden gem, it's something that's a secret. So what's the best hidden gem around here? Again, it could be a restaurant, or it could be a place that people don't know about and that you would recommend they go visit. So Jeannie says, my husband tried, not me. So he tried chicken legs. Okay, he's a much braver man than I am. Gidayas, and I do apologize if I mispronounced your name. Say hello from Brazil or to Brazil. Do you want me to say hello to Brazil? I'll say hi Brazil, or are you saying hello from Brazil to us? But otherwise, hello Brazil. Nice to meet you. So, what's the best hidden gem? How about if you could fly anywhere for free, where would you go? If you could fly anywhere for free, where would you go? Oh, bye Vasiliki. I hope your lesson goes well. Take care. Thanks so much for joining. If you could fly anywhere for free, where would you go? Paris, Keiko, lovely. Have you ever been? So if you could go for free, you'd go to Paris. Wonderful. Now, the next question is, where's the last place you traveled? And what did you do there? Where's the last place you traveled? And what did you do there? Wonderful. So Luciana is saying London. Cardenia is saying, if I can see that flag, Australia, Cardenia? Or is that New Zealand? I need to make sure because their flag are very, very similar. So, where's the last place you traveled and what did you do there? Now, the next question is, do you prefer action-packed holidays or relaxing on the beach? So, do you prefer action-packed holidays or relaxing on the beach? Max said, hi, nice to meet you. So, Jeannie said Australia, Cardenia said Australia. So, what's the next question? What's the next trip you have planned? So, what's the next trip you have planned? Yeah, we all love talking about our holidays, right? What's the next trip? Oh, nothing much. In fact, in my book, Small Talk to Go, I have a whole part where people are engaging in a chit-chat over a training course over at the bar and they start talking about holidays. Have you planned your summer holiday yet? Any plans? What's the action packed? So if you want to see how the conversation can develop, take a look at the book because that's where you'd see it. So Amit is saying relaxing on the beach. Jeannie's saying Santorini. You know what? I've never been to Santorini and I would really love to go. I would go to Aruba. Very nice, Cardenia. Lovely. Luciana is saying, went to Villa La Angostura. Pardon, I'm so sorry about my pronunciation. In the south of Argentina. Absolutely beautiful. The lakes, the mountains, everything pure and quiet. Sounds like heaven, Luciana. So Amit likes relaxing on the beach. So you're not an action-packed, you don't like an action-packed holiday, right? Cardenia, I think you've also been on some fascinating holidays. So is that your next holiday that you've got planned? That sounds fascinating. So, you know, great. And so then you exchange what's planned. Really? Why? Why did you choose Aruba? Because it's not something that someone would automatically think about. So what it is that inspired you to book that holiday? What has made you think? Yeah. Zakaria, Marrakesh. Yes, Marrakesh is wonderful. It's lovely. I went many years ago. I'd love to go back soon. Now, next one. So the next trip you have planned, tell me. And then the final question under travel would be, if you could take a sabbatical, where would you go and what would you do? So if you could take a sabbatical, where would you go and what would you do? Now, what does sabbatical mean? Now, at universities, for example, a lot of professors, researchers can take a year out, a sabbatical, to do research. So they take a year out, paid leave, to do research. Some companies allow you to take a sabbatical. Often it's unpaid, but you take time out from your job to do something different. And then you can come back to your job. So if you were to take a sabbatical, where would you go and what would you do? Yeah, so that's fascinating. Yeah, so if you could take a year out from your job, what would you do? Yeah, so we say the word sabbatical. It is spelled S-A-B-B-A-T-I-C-A-L. It's normally associated to academia, but we use it a lot also in business. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the lesson, so I'm going to move on to life stories. So the topic of life stories. Yeah, so Luciana is saying, to Italy to visit the town where my grandfather was born, Avellino. Yes, a lot of Argentinians have Italian backgrounds. Fascinating, it would be very interesting. Yes, so Avellino. Now I'm trying to think where Avellino is, and my geography is bad. Please tell me where that is, Luciana, because I'd love to know. Life stories. Let's talk about the metaphorical questions. Life story, first question. Where did you live before this? What are the biggest differences you see? So maybe you've moved city, maybe you've moved country, and you're talking about something, and then you say, well, where did you live before? And what are the differences? How different is it living here to where you were before? You know, and it could be just moving towns, or moving from one part of the country to another, or moving from different, countries. Cardenia is saying, I would go to Patagonia to admire the nature, or to explore the nature. Wonderful. Luciana, you're saying Campania. You could be right. I'm going to ask Cardenia because she's from the south of Italy. So Cardenia, is Avellino in Campania? Could you please tell us? I'm not sure. So, and so yes. So where did you live before, and are there any big differences? Now, what did you think you were going to be growing up? So when you were growing up, what did you think you were going to be? So in other words, what was your ambition? Maybe it's completely different to what you were, what you're doing now. So for example, me, I remember, I don't know about yourselves, when I was growing up, it was silly, it didn't last for very long, but I used to dream of becoming an air hostess on an aeroplane. I thought it was so glamorous. I wanted to be an air hostess or a travel agent. So what did you think you were going to be growing up? You know, maybe you dreamt you were going to be a pilot, maybe you dreamt you were going to be a doctor, but then your life took a different route. Oh, thank you. My mom has just said Campania is correct. Avellino is in Campania. Great. Thank you very much. So Luciana, you're right. It's Campania. So Luciana has also replied, Patagonia is a beautiful place. You're more than welcome to come. Cardenia, you have the invitation to visit Patagonia. Yes, Africa, back to nature. beautiful places. A lot of you have got some wonderful ideas and wonderful dreams for traveling and, you know, wonderful. Great. Now, the next question on life stories would be, do you have any hidden talents or surprising hobbies? Do you have any hidden talents? Maybe nobody knows about. Maybe you are very good at juggling balls, not just metaphorically, but literally you know how to juggle. Or maybe you know how to roll your tongue, you know, sort of inside out or some stupid thing. Or maybe you have a hidden talent. You're very good at doing something strange. I don't know. Or you have a surprising hobby. So can you think of a surprising hobby? I can't think now, but, you know, maybe it's a surprise. And people think, really? I never thought you would, you know. Some people, you know, we have stereotypes, you know, maybe someone's a doctor and then you find that they love, what's a surprising thing that a doctor could do? Maybe they like train spotting. Yeah, you know that those strange hobbies, right? They sit there and they like to watch trains and then they spot the train they like and they make notes. I've never understood that hobby, but there you go. Another question. What's the most unbelievable thing that's ever happened to you? Ahmed, you can cook different types of food. Okay, and is that a surprising hobby or a hidden talent that nobody knows about? Yeah, because they've never really experienced your cooking, right? So you can cook different kinds of foods. Lovely. So what's the most unbelievable thing that's ever happened to you? Unbelievable thing. Lovely. Now that would, you know, maybe you have to think about it because interesting. So you start thinking about what's the most unbelievable thing that's ever happened to you. Ah, it's a hidden talent, Amit. I thought it might be. Is that because you don't cook or you don't want to cook? Or you're not allowed to cook? Maybe your mom or your wife don't allow you into the kitchen. Who knows? The second last question here is, who's the most important role model or mentor you've had in your life? I love this question. You know, who's the most important role model or mentor you've had in your life? I love that. Do you? And finally, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Very different from career advice. This is the best piece of advice. It could be from a family member. It could be from business. Yeah. And your role model is your brother, your elder brother. That's lovely, Amit. Your role model. Wonderful. And it's great. Then your role model. Why? Luciana, your father. Hands down. How lovely. Yeah. So, you know, who's your role model? Or your mentor? And who's the most important person? Wonderful. And what's the best piece of advice you've ever received up to now? So I hope I've given you some. So Jeannie said silent is golden. Silent is gold. Wonderful. So from your father. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes we often say if you don't know what to say, then you don't say, because silence is golden. You know, our silence can speak 1,000 words. My brother, Gedas is saying, and Kardenia is saying, yes, my father was my role model. Lovely. I hope you enjoyed all these different questions. I think they're fascinating questions. If you're a member of the EWAT community, then you will have had these copy of these posts. If not, have a look at the blog. Have a look at englishwithatwist.com. Check out the blog that was last week and join the community if you haven't. And if you want to develop more your small talk, then do have a look at my Small Talk to Go book, the latest ebook I have, which is an audiobook and an ebook. And if you join this week, then you are going to have a great discount, but that's only for the EWAT members. So take a look, because the sale period ends on Friday, but otherwise the book will be on the EWAT store whenever you want, whenever you're ready to, you know, take a peek into these different scenarios you can explore to see how you could engage, start a conversation, continue a conversation, and end that conversation. Luciana, you're saying, don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. Absolutely. That comes also from the Bible, doesn't it? Don't do to anybody what you wouldn't want done to you. Similar about talking about don't tell someone what you wouldn't want them to tell you. Don't say things that you wouldn't like. Yeah, so it's, treat people the same way as you want to be treated. Wonderful. Thank you ever so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on today's class. Lesson 52. You were fantastic. Thank you so much for your involvement, for your contribution. I do hope you enjoyed this class. Tell everybody else, if you think this is a great class to have, to join Wednesdays with EWAT on the Facebook page. Tell them to sign up to the EWAT community. And if you haven't taken a look at the Small Talk to Go book, do have a look at it, explore the book, and grab yourself a copy if you want, or maybe later on, whatever. But the key is to keep going, keep practicing. Thank you so much for your involvement. I will see you next week on lesson 53. That's on the last day of January, 31st of January, for more talk. Not necessarily small talk, but we will be talking about other things. Thank you so much to all of you who are new to this class. Thank you for joining. I hope to see you next week. Take care and ciao for now.